Brookland News Live begins right now. Here's Jackson Mitchell.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you. I'm Jackson Mitchell. So great to be joining you all. It is a Monday afternoon at 1:02 p.m. Trying to come on the air around 1. We're here now, and we have a lot of headlines that we're following, to say the least. We are going to get into all of it throughout the next 2 hours that I'm going to be here with you guys. I do want to start first. This event could be ending, but Andrew Cuomo, who is the independent, once ran as a Democrat. When he lost the primary, he changed to independent, is speaking on public safety in New York City. Let's go live there and listen in for a few moments.
Time, and you're burning them out. Hire more police officers. That's the answer to that. So you don't get burned out. And by the way, I don't want you burned out. Because when you get burned out, that's when you make a mistake. When you get burned out, that's when you overreact in a demonstration situation. So hire more police officers. Well, we'll have civilians do police work. No, police should do police work. We'll send civilians to a domestic violence situation. Domestic violence situation is not always, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk things through, right? 60 to 70% involves violence or threats of violence. These can be dangerous situations. No, I don't think it's appropriate to send a civilian into that situation. Social worker with a homeless person. If a person is homeless and dangerously mentally ill, which means they can be a danger to themselves or others, that means they can be a danger to you. There have been many times in my own experience where I walked up to a homeless person in a subway, in subway tunnels. I did this throughout the country, and the person looks like they're in need of help, and the person can get violent because they're mentally ill. So, well, just send a social worker. No, I think you can send a social worker. I think you also need a police officer if that situation turns violent. So I understand he does not like the police, because he has said numerous times, I don't like the police. Well, why do you say that? Because he said they're racist. When you say somebody's racist, that means you don't like them. I hope. He has said they're wicked. He has said they're corrupt. He said they're a threat to public safety. I get it. I disagree with him vehemently on all of the above. And I don't believe that New Yorkers want to sacrifice their public safety for some ideological socialist point of view, right? In the Democratic Socialist Charter, it says defund the police. It's in their charter. His tweet in response to my trying to say this is a more general philosophical point of view, he said, no, it's not. It's defund the police. So yes, he wants to defund the police. I think they play a vital role in society, and I think they're a benchmark of New York City's well-being, because affordability, economic development, yes, but it all starts with safety.
And any concrete steps you would take toward universal child care if elected?
Well, let's get back to reality. The state started universal pre-K, right? I know you guys were in the city. I was in Albany. Everything comes from New York City because we are the center of the universe. I know. The state started pre-K, right? And then the city, Mayor de Blasio, said he wanted to bring pre-K to New York City. But the state had already started it. The more we can make it affordable, the better. And you're right, I'm going to be rolling out an affordability agenda that speaks to just that. That was a shot at you, Marcia, that the city thinks is the center of the universe.
Well, now I gotta pick Marcia.
I'm wondering, you say you have a $250 million plan to beef up the cops. Does that include the pay raise? And the reason I want to talk to you about the pay raise, you say the police starting salary in New York City is $60,000, and you point out that in LA they get $94,000. The truth of the matter is that they get almost that if they went to Suffolk County, Nassau County, Westchester County, or the MTA police. So what, in your mind, is the right salary, starting salary for a New York City police officer, and is that included in your $250 million plan? And then I have a second question.
Well, basically what we're saying here is it would be 60 plus 15, right? Because you would
So it'd be
get
75,000.
Yes.
So the stipend, what you're saying is that the stipend, if they get the 5,000 and then the 10,000,
So at the end of
will
the
stay
first-
in their base pay.
Yes, first year, at the end of the first year, you're at 75, which makes you more than competitive with surrounding jurisdictions.
Okay, so my
You
second
could go to
question.
LA for 94,000, but then you have to go to LA.
So my second question is this. At his press conference today, Mr. Mondani and Senator Warren slammed you for being a person who wants to contribute, contributors, wants people who are billionaires to contribute to help defeat him, and that you're more concerned with billionaires and dealing with billionaires than actual people. And I wonder if you would like to respond to those charges.
I don't even know what that means. Let's, back to political rhetoric. I don't know what that means. I've represented the people of this state. I've fought more for the working families of this state and accomplished more for the working families of this state than either of them, frankly. Highest minimum wage in the United States.
Alrighty, we are going to continue monitoring this feed there. Again, Andrew Cuomo speaking on public safety. We are going to monitor that. Even I want to turn now to another story that we're following at this hour. Texas Democrats are fleeing Texas to avoid quorum call. Essentially, that is when they're in the House and the Senate in this state, and this is with like city council meetings, all types of meetings like that. It's basically saying that there is enough people to have a majority that can rule on certain things. So if only 2 city council members show, only 2 Democrat members show, that is not enough to represent them. So they will not have a quorum. So again, this is happening now. Texas Dems flank. I want to play it all out. So we're going to keep it equal here. We're just listening to an independent with the Democratic caucus. So we're going to start with the Republican reaction here. Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is reacting to the news. Let's play the video out here. 1 second. Okay, take a look.
Plans to redraw the state's election map. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, flanked by Texas House Democrats, said this just moments ago.
This is not breaking the law. This is a legitimate process that has been used before. By breaking quorum and being here today, these legislators are getting into what John Lewis might call good trouble. Good trouble is the best kind of trouble. They've drawn racist lines to disenfranchise millions of Texans.
And Texas Governor Greg Abbott joins us now. Thank you so much. Can you tell us from your perspective, what is the issue? Why did they leave?
So they're leaving and they've left because they're very un-Texan. Texans don't run from a fight. And there's a fight going on in the legislature right now about redistricting as well as other things. But I'll make 2 quick points, Dana, about this. For one, To run to states like New York and Illinois to protest redistricting is kind of like running to Wisconsin to protest cheese. It's just kind of outrageous. Those are New York and Illinois are two hallmark states that have already done redistricting to eliminate Republicans. But the second thing is far more serious. And that is what these Democrats have done. Just a small fraction of them were needed to break a quorum, and that small fraction is holding hostage legislation in the state of Texas where we will be able to provide assistance and reform for all of the victims of that horrific flooding that we've had in the state of Texas. Our fellow Texans are being let down and not getting the flood relief they need because these Democrats have absconded from the responsibility, and I believe they have forfeited their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do.
Governor, let me show everybody here what you were talking about. I think we have this map of Illinois and the districts as they've been drawn. And as you point out, it's been over and over again. They make these small little squiggly lines to make sure that they can figure out the best way to get Democrats there. So that's an example of what you were talking about. I want to play for you this sound from State Representative Gene Wu. He's a Democrat from Texas. Here's what he said.
The tool they're using is a racist, gerrymandered map. A map that seeks to use racial lines to divide hard-working communities. And Governor Abbott is doing this in submission to Donald Trump. So that Donald Trump could steal these communities' power and voice.
I have two main questions. How do you respond to his accusation that you're using a racist tool to do this? And the second question I have, if you could wrap it into this answer, is why now? Why do you need to do this in the middle of this session?
Sure. So what he just said is totally bogus. First, for redistricting purposes, it's not done for racial reasons. However, the racial outcome is this, and that is the district lines will solidify the Barbara Jordan African-American district in the Houston area, and it will add 4 new Hispanic districts. And so there's actually going to be more racial minority districts in the state of Texas. Why now? 2 reasons. One is, since we last did redistricting, there's been a change in law. A court decision affecting Texas came out and said that coalition districts are no longer required, and it's perfectly legal to dismantle coalition districts. The second is gerrymandering can be done, or drawing lines can be done, on the basis of political makeup, as in Republican versus Democrat, and there's nothing illegal about that. And then when you look at the outcome of the most recent presidential election, all these districts that are being added are districts that were won by Trump. Here's the point of that. These voters in these districts won by Trump, they don't have the ability to vote for their candidate of choice now because they're in congressional districts, they're in a Democrat district, as opposed to a district won by Trump. And so we have the authority legally under redistricting law to draw districts that align with the voter preferences of the voters of the state of Texas. And Donald Trump proved in these Hispanic-created districts that Hispanics, as well as other people in those districts, they want to vote Republican.
Let me just point this out. We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. If you don't have the votes, eventually you come home to Texas, and we know it, basically it's going to be overtaken by events. But you also said in your statement that you put out today to all of them, in a letter to them, you said, in addition to abandoning their offices, these legislators may also have committed felonies. What is the felony? What are the penalties for this?
So very simply, it would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
All right, Governor Abbott. Well, we'll be watching Martha's show, the story at 3 o'clock Eastern to see if by the end of that show.
Alrighty, so that was the Texas governor there, Greg Abbott, addressing this. Even they're indicating that we could see charges of bribery to these Democrats that fled. A longer clip that we have from Democrats, but we want to make sure that you are getting both sides of the story. So that's where we take you now. Earlier out to an event that was held by Governor Kathy Hochul, who addressed this. So let's go there and we'll listen in for addressing the situation.
Representative Suleiman Lamani. Remember those names. Those are the 2025 candidates, in my opinion, for profiles in courage. I'm proud to be joined by Carl Speaker Hastie. We've had a robust conversation. First of all, I hosted them at the governor's residence early this morning to make sure they were well fed with New York food, as well as giving them the opportunity to see a home that Franklin Roosevelt once lived in. For inspiration, as I'm inspired every day about knowing who we're fighting for and who we're fighting against. These brave public servants are taking a stand, a strong stand, against a blatant power grab that's happening in their state as we speak. And this will have implications, not just in Texas, but for our entire nation and its future. First of all, by breaking quorum, using a legitimate form of government, correct? We've talked about this. This is not breaking the law. This is a legitimate process that has been used before. By breaking quorum and being here today, these legislators are getting into what John Lewis might call good trouble. Good trouble is the best kind of trouble. You know why? Because now that you have the Attorney General, the Texas Attorney General, who, by the way, is obsessed with going after doctors in our state who are simply providing medication, abortion assistance to people who are denied that by their own states. Now he's threatened to arrest each and every one of them if they don't return to Austin. But they're being asked to return to vote for a radical redrawing of the congressional lines that were already adopted. They're being adopted in favor of Republicans. And of course, where did this come from? Well, Donald Trump came up with this scheme, perhaps with some help with AI, I don't know. But they have literally redrawn 5 congressional districts, primarily representing communities of color that need the representation. They've drawn racist lines to disenfranchise millions of Texans. So what does this have to do with the state of New York? It's a good question. I'll tell you this. The last 6 months, Donald Trump and his cowardly Republican enablers have pursued an agenda that has destroyed all we hold dear in this country. It's harmed the American people, but also the people I represent in the state of New York. They've denied life-saving health care to millions of people. They've denied food to poor children. Why? All this to give tax breaks to their billionaire buddies. And also now they're crushing the middle class with tariffs, which are simply poorly disguised taxes. We're hearing the news today how everything is going to go up. A backpack that you could have bought for just $30 in May is now $50 for moms and dads getting ready for back-to-school shopping. That's the direct impact on New Yorkers and Americans. But also at the same time, in our states and many others, they're sending masked, armed individuals to snatch law-abiding residents off the streets as their own children scream in terror. That is happening on the streets of our great country. So people are basically disgusted. They're disgusted with this trampling of their basic human rights, rights that we've always cherished and fought for in this country. And that is precisely why New York has a strong interest in what is occurring almost across the country in Texas. Now I have news flash for Republicans in Texas. This is no longer the Wild West. We're not going to tolerate our democracy being stolen in a modern-day stagecoach hoist by a bunch of law-breaking cowboys. Americans don't want a system that's stacked against them. They believe in fairness. It's fundamental.
Alrighty, we have some
I'll tell you
breaking
this,
news
they're
we are
done with the
going to
chaos.
turn to now. I hate to interrupt Governor Kathy Hochul there because we're trying to get both sides of the story, but I want to turn now to this story that is just coming in within the last few moments. Again, this is a look live from Fox 11 Los Angeles, KTTV, as you're watching there, a standoff with the LAPD in the Costco parking lot there.
We want to put this back on television now, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to keep an eye on it. I wish I could join you guys, at least read some of the comments. I am kind of curious what you guys are thinking. I mean,
That is the chopper reporter there speaking for just a moment. Again, this vehicle, it at this point in time, it is my knowledge, it's kind of unclear as to why we're here. It's just a standoff. In an LA Costco parking lot. It says the suspect is I'm sorry, this is according to the report we're getting. There is someone that we're seeing there walking out of that van. We're going to watch here for just a moment, but I'm going to read you the report coming in right now from Fox 11. We could see a possible surrender coming, maybe. I'm not sure. This is my kind of first time tuning into this, so have we seen this guy speak to officers? There is a sign on the front of the van. If you see on the windshield there on your screen, on the right side of your screen, there's a sign on the windshield, and there's writing on the front of the hood of that vehicle. Again, the information we are getting from Fox 11 Los Angeles says the suspect is wanted for alleged criminal threats. His barricaded, it's at the Altwater Village Costco location. It's unclear anymore. It just says a pursuit suspect is in a standoff, and the reason I'm assuming they were in a pursuit was for alleged criminal threats. That's the information that we're getting there from Fox 11 Los Angeles, who is reporting this information. So again, this all coming in within the last few moments or so. We're learning again a standoff with the LAPD in the Costco parking lot. What we are going to do here is monitor this event. But if you'll give me a second here, we will transition back to Kathy Hochul, who is the governor of New York. You are listening into their speak on Democrats fleeing the state to avoid a quorum call. Essentially, the reason they're doing that, they're wanting to. Texas Republicans are wanting to redistrict. While that is not what Democrats wanted to do. They say this is essentially alluding to gerrymandering, is what Texas Democrats are alleging. Republicans say this is actually highlighting minority locations. As you heard there in that interview this morning with Fox News from Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, they're fleeing the state for a hearing that happens today at 3 p.m. to avoid a quorum. So we are going to go back over to Governor Kathy Hochul of New York, who was speaking a little bit earlier on this ongoing event. Let's listen back in.
Republicans know this. They've seen the polls. They know they're sliding downhill because Americans are rejecting their policies. So this is why they're fighting. They want to. They know they'll lose the elections, but to subvert the will of the people, they're hell-bent on rigging the system. Rigging the system is un-American. Congressional districts are never redrawn mid-decade as they are. But here they are, flagrantly breaking the rules so they can hold on to power. And with that power, they're going to inflict even more pain. And they'd rather eliminate fairness in the system than to proceed knowing they're going to lose. They'd rather silence voters than serve them. From my perspective, to refuse to stand up and fight for our democracy as we are joining in solidarity with our friends from Texas means one thing. You won't fight for democracy, you're doomed to lose it. For almost 250 years, our democratic experience has been fought for, and it's endured. As governor of a state where many of those early battles took place, we're commemorating them next year. Those battles for freedom were here. That's why I cannot stand by and let this happen, while Donald Trump and his co-conspirator, Greg Abbott, erode our democracy and drag us toward authoritarianism. Now, what Texas and Republican states are doing at the direction of Donald Trump, I say is nothing short of a legal insurrection against our Capitol. Legal meaning they're using the legal process. Does not mean it's legal, and it must be stopped. If Republicans are willing to rewrite these rules to give themselves an advantage, then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same. There's a phrase, you have to fight fire with fire. That is a true statement of how we're feeling right now. And as I've said, another overused but applicable phrase, all's fair in love and war. That's why I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible. Our state legislative leaders, Carol Heastie, Majority Leader Andre Stewart Cousins, they're on board, as are their members. We're already working on a legislative process, reviewing our legal strategies, and we'll do everything in our power to stop this brazen assault. As I mentioned, these are profiles in courage sitting with me here today. They left their homes, left their families, left their loved ones in a world of uncertainty. But our history is defined by people who are brave patriots, who will not accept the status quo, who believe they must use their voices and their positions to stand up for others. And I could not be prouder to have an opportunity to meet them, each and every one of them, and hear their personal stories. And I thank them so much for making this journey. You are on the right side of history. And you're not alone.
Thank you.
We are in solidarity with each and every one of you and your colleagues in another state, hosted by my great friend, J.B. Pritzker, who welcome you as well. As I said, history will judge us on how we respond to this moment. But here in New York, we will not stand on the sidelines with the timid souls on the sidelines who don't care, will not invest their heart and soul into this battle. This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on. With that, let me turn it over to our great speaker, Kyle Hasty.
Alrighty, so we've been listening again there to Kathy Hochul for the last little bit. She is the governor of New York on Texas Democrats who are fleeing. We are going to be monitoring this hearing set to come at 3 p.m. Central Time on the Texas redistricting. Even though Democrats are not there, they look to still be pressing on. So we will be watching for that to come. Okay. Want to take you out to two events that we're watching at
when
this
vertically
hour.
integrated
Let me turn
companies
the audio
interact.
down there. Left side there, Virginia Lottery education announcement. We are that is happening right now. Meanwhile, on the right side, I believe it's the Department of Justice, the FTC, a number of different organizations speaking on lowering drug costs, I believe. So we're going to monitor that. Let's take you out to what appears to be maybe some of the conclusions here of this event in Virginia. Governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, is also in attendance. Let's take you live there and listen in. Looks like they might be taking some questions.
4%. This is incredible efficiency for an agency like this. As we wind down and get towards the meat of this celebration, when you think of the lottery, I want you to think of three things. I want you to think of the 400 dedicated employees all around the Commonwealth who wake up every day and say, how can I make the lives of school children better? Based on our mission of innovation, integrity, collaboration, and empowerment. The second thing I want you to remember, I mentioned our 5,300 retailers. For many people around Virginia, they are the lottery. When they go to their local retailer, that's what they know of the lottery. They help us do what we do. I describe them as the backbone of our organization because without them, numbers like that are simply not possible. And last, I want you to remember the kids, most importantly. When you see newsreels about this event today, you'll see this check and you'll see the $901 million, and that'll be the story. But behind this big check are big dreams. And we are allowed every day to wake up in the morning and fuel these big dreams. We go to schools from Hampton Roads to Abingdon, Winchester to Roanoke, and all parts in between. When you talk to the students and you look in their eyes and you see their faces, you cannot help but to be personally, professionally, and emotionally motivated by fueling their dreams. And because of that, Governor Youngkin, I am so overjoyed on behalf of the Virginia Lottery to present this check for $901 million to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll go cash that because we've got places to put it. And so welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Patrick Henry Building. Welcome to this annual event, which I know we all look forward to because it gives us a chance to celebrate teaching. It gives us a chance to celebrate our students, and it gives us a chance to celebrate the amazing work that goes on at the lottery. And I hope everybody recognizes that when we were recruiting Khalid, he was stepping in the footsteps of a great leader at the lottery, who is now Secretary Kelly G., Secretary of the Commonwealth. And so I just want to thank you. And we had a national search. And that national search led a gentleman and his wife and their daughter to come to Richmond. And I just want to thank you for trusting us and the great job that you were doing. It's been amazing. Secretary Gadara, it's time to go to work. You know, it's time to go to work, but I also want to thank my friends in the General Assembly, my friends who will work in our Department of Education, but also all of our educators across the Commonwealth of Virginia. You see, at the end of the day, students need to be taught. And what we learned along the way here is that it is great teachers like Dr. McKnight, great teachers who can unlock that special something in every child that we know exists because God put it there. And that is such a relationship that needs to be not only encouraged, but funded. And so over the course of our administration, we have had record funding for K through 12 education year after year after year. We, in fact, have seen that funding increase 50% over the course of the last 4 years, the last 3 bienniums. And that kind of funding requires this kind of production out of the lottery. And so again, thank you, because it allows us to do so much more across the Commonwealth. I want to thank our board as well. I want to reiterate the fact, volunteer. I always tell everybody I'd like to double your salary, but it's zero. But great people step into these jobs to serve as board members on boards that oversee really important functions. And they do it because they love the Commonwealth of Virginia. They do it because they bring incredible capabilities, and they do it because they care, in this case, about education. And so I want to thank all of you and the 3 that couldn't make it today for your sacrifices that you have continually made in order to allow the lottery to do what it does. Now, I want to also emphasize a few numbers that Khalid shared with you. $14.5 billion to education. $14.5 billion. That is a striking number, but what it means is that our education initiatives constantly have this jet engine behind them, this jet engine that is fueled by the Commonwealth again and again and again. And another $901 million today is yet another demonstration of how this system works. 37 years this system has worked, 37 years of supporting education around the Commonwealth of Virginia. I also want to highlight the fact that we have an incredibly efficient operation, and that matters because these are the profits. And once prize money is paid out and overhead is covered, this is what's left. And of course, if we allow an overhead to run away, like it does in so many organizations, this number goes down. And so again, I want to thank all of the lottery personnel for the great work you all do in watching every penny. Because when you watch every penny, it means more goes to the kids. And so thank you all very, very much. And then finally, our partners. Our partners are retailers across the Commonwealth. And again, 5,300 retail partners across the Commonwealth that are really the front end on a lot of what the lottery does. And with $127 million being earned by those business partners, it is a tremendous relationship. And so once again, this isn't about a single effort. It's not about a single person. It is about a partnership that exists that benefits our kids. Now, finally, and I think it's really important for everybody to know that the lottery team not only can win softball games, but they contribute to the communities. And they have volunteered 1,100 hours of time to be present in our community, recognizing that not only communities need to be funded, but they require personal attention. And that means almost as much as anything else you will do. Where you see our members in the community and you say, we care about you so much, we're going to give our time. And we're going to bring our talents.
Alrighty, so we've been listening in there to Governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, there on a donation that the Virginia Lottery will be making to the Commonwealth of Virginia. We do want to take you to another breaking story that's happening right now. You're taking a look live there, a standoff at a local Los Angeles Costco. You see they have put spike strips in front of that van. It's going nowhere, to say the least. Let's see if we have the pilot's voice here that we might be able to listen in for just a moment. Okay. Does not appear he's speaking there, so again, we're just saying if we have it. So again, taking a look live here, a standoff that's been going on for a little bit now, really. We started watching this a few moments ago, and now it's kind of just escalated as the time has gone on. You see plenty of LAPD cruisers there, spike strips in front of this van. It's a small bus. It has writing on the front. There's a sign on the windshield. It was unclear what it said earlier. There's something outside of it. He appeared to be talking to law enforcement officials earlier. So we'll see where this goes. So at this point in time, we are going to continue monitoring this. Just wanted to break in for just a second because I know that it is a story that we are following right now. For now, let's take you back out live to this event that is ongoing in Richmond, Virginia. It's happening now. The Virginia Lottery again making this announcement. Do want to note here that we do have the LAPD there. That standoff in the bottom right corner of your screen, just below the White House if you missed it. We're watching it. You can watch it as well with us. Let's listen back in again. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin making this announcement.
Guide you, to inspire you, to infuse you with passion to do what you do so well. And may his blessing extend to every student and every parent and family in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Khalid, thank you. Thank you for what you and your team have done. And my goodness, folks, it's time to go back to school. So here we go. Thank you all very much.
Okay, just the ending of those remarks there by Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Let's take you to another feed that we are watching at this hour. That is the Department of Justice and a number of other officials talking about how to lower drug prices. Take a look there. That's that event that is happening right now. They are. It's the DOJ, FTC which is the Federal Trade Commission. It's the Department of Justice Antitrust Division, the Commerce Department, and the Health and Human Services Department. They're discussing ways to lower drug prices in the U.S. Let's listen in here.
About drug pricing going forward in this environment. Pharmaceutical development is an incredibly complex system. There are multiple opportunities for arbitrage and misuse and bad behavior. It's important to protect intellectual property and incentivize development, but the cost of drug pricing is an issue that's felt in every household. And in Senator Cornyn's opinion, the number one way to solve this is to increase generic and biosimilar access into the market. The speed of competitive drugs coming to the market and the ability to have pharmacy level substitutability and interchangeability as soon as possible within a framework that still functions and protects innovation and intellectual property, right? The arrangement where if you get a patent, you get a term of exclusivity, that's the foundation for the kind of financial development that makes the United States the crown jewel of pharmaceutical development worldwide. And so it can't be appropriate to disrupt that, but everything that we can do to solve those technical problems we're seeing in the current system that harms the availability of generics and biosimilars to come to market would have redounded benefits nationwide. And so in an attempt to try to improve that, the Senator has two bills introduced that were both reported unanimously out of the Senate Judiciary Committee earlier this year and have been for multiple Congresses that would tackle two particular bad behaviors that, in the Senator's view, impede this increased access to generics and biosimilars. The first is the Affordable Prescriptions for Patients Act, which would target the use of patent thickets in the patent dance. And I'm being very precise with my language there by referencing the patent dance, because I think sometimes discussions around patent thickets can get a little bit messy. Because if you, and granted, right, like every patent should be validly created, and the Senator believes that there's an appropriate role for post-grant review and that it's fair sometimes to administratively challenge patents. But at the same time, if the fact that this is your 14th patent added to a particular pharmaceutical combination doesn't mean per se that that particular patent is improperly granted, right? Like if a patent can stand on its own, it will stand on its own when it's the 15th patent. And I do think that can get kind of lost in conversations around patent thickets, because sometimes if a patent is a true, new, non-obvious development, then it is appropriate for that patent to be granted, even if there are many patents on one particular drug. That is why what Affordable Prescriptions for Patients does is addresses patent thickets in the context of the patent dance. The patent dance was passed in BPCIA's, I believe it's a part of the Affordable Prescriptions for Patients Act back in 2010. And the patent dance tried to create a framework for biosimilars, similar to Hatch-Waxman, to increase the resolution of intellectual property prior to the launching of a drug competitor at the end of a patent term. The patent dance is a voluntary pathway, and over the course of the last 15 years, it has not functioned as intended. Part of this is because it has not created the efficiencies that were intended in terms of litigating the patents at issue. So what Affordable Prescriptions for Patients does is it says, if you participate voluntarily in this patent dance, then the number of patents to be litigated are limited to kind of the foundational patents, the ones that really have to be litigated, the ones that are like about the actual molecular structure and so on. And then in return, the reference product sponsor has to provide all of the information that they have about the drug's manufacturer. This was what we see as a problem in the patent dance. You had two parties who didn't really trust each other. And because it was a voluntary pathway, you had a kind of I'll show you mine, you show me yours issue. So you had a failure of information, and then huge amounts of patents need to be litigated. Intellectual property litigation, as everybody knows, is incredibly expensive. And so you just did not have the efficiencies created in the system that you were hoping for. So that's what Affordable Prescriptions for Patients does, is it sets a cap on the number of patents that are litigated if the parties do voluntarily participate in the patent dance. I think going back to my comments about patent thickets in general, I think that's a very important comment. I think that attempts to address patent thickets can run into real problems when they're dealing with actual validity enforcement of a particular patent, and can implicate like larger property rights issues that are worthy of discussion, but maybe not solvable in a 2-page bill. And that's why this bill tackles the patent thickets issue specifically as to the patent dance, again, bringing further biosimilar entrance to the market faster with more certainty, and then we can get that competition, and that is what is going to bring prices down for people, especially as biosimilars are going to become even biosimilars and large molecules, right? We're transitioning from a small molecule world to a large molecule world, more infusions. And so it's really important to make sure that that system functions, because we're going to see more and more of it going forward. The second bill that Senator Cornyn has is the Drug Competition Enhancement Act. This bill addresses another particular behavioral issue. This is an antitrust issue called product hopping. Product hopping occurs when a manufacturer creates a follow-on product, a new product that is treating the same condition but is an improvement in some way.
Okay, so you listening in there to officials on lowering drug costs. We will monitor that as it continues. Look back live at our feed that we have of a standoff ongoing at a local Costco in Los Angeles, courtesy of KTTV, the local Fox station there. We will continue to monitor it for the next little bit. Also, as we take a break, a live look at the White House there. Really just Washington. You see the National Monument there in the distance. We are expected to hear from multiple different Trump administration officials on a Make America Healthy Again event. That's coming a little later in the day. Really should be coming anytime, top of the hour. I'll show you, let's take you back out to this feed from KTTV. We are now seeing this man speaking to police officers.
Figure out what it is. It is a bus.
Let's listen to
retreat into his
the
domicile.
helicopter pilot here for just a moment.
You know, so I don't think they're going to do much. I think they're going to wait for him to actually get out and, you know, create some distance. Yeah. And if we're live somewhere, it's criminal threats. Criminal threats. That's from LAPD. And our assignment desk. Yeah. True. Yeah, and even if it's like what it says on the hood is something like, you know, basically do toxicology when I'm dead. And on the other side, on the driver's side door, right.
Okay, we're going to continue monitoring this event here. Let's take you out to another live look that we're following at this hour. Live look here in I-Drive, Arkansas, camera on I-55, on I-55, I believe. Maybe it's I-55. I don't know. Just the interstate here in Jonesboro. We will monitor all these events. So much we're following. You're watching Brookland News Live. The coverage continues here in just a moment. Hi, everybody. Welcome back into Brooklyn News Live. Never like to keep you guys in a break for too long. I know it can get boring. Sitting there listening to the repeating song. Second Lady Usha Vance is hosting a reading event at NASA for the Summer Reading Challenge. So why don't we listen in here for just a moment?
Miles does it travel around the Earth? 1,423,000.
How fast does it go? 2,288 miles per hour. How big round is it? 6,783 miles. Margaret began solving harder and harder math problems. It was fun working her way through the steps.
She liked moving around the X's and Y's in algebra. She liked measuring circles and triangles in geometry. She liked studying curves in calculus.
And then she discovered computer.
She experimented with writing instructions or code that told the machine what to do. The code was called software, and Margaret called herself a software engineer. She started with something simple, asking the computer to add and subtract, multiply and divide.
Margaret taught herself to write code that performed more and more complicated tasks. She programmed computers to track airplanes through the clouds, and even to predict the weather. She made them do things they had never done before.
In 1964, Margaret got interested in an exciting project for NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Their scientists were working on the hardest problem humans ever tried to solve, flying people to the moon.
Could Margaret use computers to get the astronauts 238,855 miles there and 238,855 miles back? She convinced NASA's leaders to let her try.
Margaret thought of everything that could happen on a trip to the moon. Would the spacecraft go off course? Would it lose power? Would an astronaut make a mistake?
Margaret wrote code to tell the computers how to solve these problems. She worked her way through the steps just as she used to do in math class.
Soon, Margaret became Director of Software Programming for NASA's Project Apollo, leading dozens of scientists.
She helped Apollo 8 orbit the moon 10 times. She helped Apollo 9 connect to 2 ships in space. She helped Apollo 10 get within 9 miles of the moon's surface. Hello there.
With Apollo 11, NASA would finally try to put people on the moon. Had Margaret thought of everything that could go wrong with the lunar landing? She checked her code again to make sure.
The astronauts were depending on her. You see the stack of Margaret's code there?
All right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff! And Apollo 11 rose with a blast of smoke and fire.
Margaret followed along from a control room, and the whole world watched on television.
For 4 days, the spacecraft drew nearer to the moon. The lunar module named the Eagle split off to make the landing. Yippee! But with minutes left to go, an astronaut entered a command and the master alarm buzzed. Oops.
The Eagle's computer started performing too many tasks. Overload, overload, yikes!
The control room panicked. The moon landing was in danger. Everyone looked at Margaret. Had she prepared for this problem? Of course.
Margaret's code made the computer ignore the extra tasks and focus on the landing. It brought the Eagle closer to the moon's surface. Closer, closer, touchdown.
The Eagle has landed, announced astronaut Neil Armstrong. The control room cheered. Margaret was a hero.
Later that night, the Eagle's hatch opened. Margaret held her breath. Armstrong took the first step on the moon. The whole world celebrated in front of their televisions. As they're all saying, hurrah!
Margaret walked outside smiling. Her code had helped the astronauts get to the moon, and she knew it would help get them home safely. As always, she gazed at the night sky in wonder.
distance explorer camps and children of our Johnson Space Center employees, but also children from across the nation and the world on NASA Plus. We know you have a lot of questions for the Second Lady and our NASA astronaut Sunny, so we'll jump right in and try to get to as many as possible. Caroline, a third grader from Tennessee, wants to know what each of your favorite planets are and why.
Planets. Oh, okay. You want me to start with that one?
Yes.
So it's awesome to look at planets and go outside and look at the night sky, but it's actually even more awesome when you're in a spacecraft and you can look down at this planet. So I have to say Earth is my favorite planet because we can also wear our bathing suits and go to the beach. Other planets, that might be a little bit more problematic.
Well, that's a really good answer, and probably should be my answer too. But I'll say that Jupiter is my favorite planet. And in fact, in our house, we have a painting that my little boy made when he was 5 of Jupiter as seen through the asteroid belt, and that's the way that I like to think about it.
All right, and then I know Brooks R., who's in the crowd. I know you have a question for both Ms. Vance and Sunny. If you want to come meet Jarrell up at this microphone right here.
If you could bring one thing to the surface of the moon, what would you bring?
Ooh. So if you could bring one thing to the surface of the moon, what would it be? Well, you know, we prepare a lot for the things that we're going to do on the moon, or wherever we go in space, but you never know if something might come up that you might not, know how to do or haven't practiced. So I would probably bring a tool. And a tool that I like is like a Leatherman that has multi-tools. It has all sorts of little things on it. And that way, if you run into any little problem, you have your tool, your trusty tool with you right there to help fix and solve that problem.
I think it's pretty unlikely I'd get to go to the moon since I'm not an astronaut like Sunny. But if I were lucky enough to do that, I think I might leave something to leave behind for a future kid to find there. And so one of the things I know is pretty cool right now is Pokemon cards. So I think I'd bring a Pokemon card and hide it there and see if any of you guys could find it.
I like that one.
Great. Now we have a question from Ryan in Florida for Ms. Vance. Ryan asks, do you ever want to go to space?
Oh, I would love to go to space. I think it would be the greatest adventure you could have. So I'm pretty excited that I get to talk to someone who's actually done it.
Fantastic. And now here with us today, we have Aria, a kindergartner from right here in Houston. Aria, would you like to ask Ms. Vance your question?
What's your favorite book?
Oh, that's a great question. I have a lot of favorite books. One of my favorite kids' books that I like reading right now is one you might like about space. It's called May Among the Stars. And then I have favorite books that I read when I was a little bit older, like the Little House books were some of my favorite by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And then I've got favorite adult books too, but probably less exciting.
Now Sam, joining us from all the way in Washington, has asked, if each of you could take one book to space, what would it be and why?
Oh boy, that's a little tricky. Probably The Little Prince. I really love that book, and it has so many cool connotations for life, and so probably The Little Prince, if you guys have heard of that.
I think if I were going to be in space for a while and I only had one book, I might get a little bored. So I might bring an encyclopedia, something that just has hundreds of things for me to read about all sorts of different topics.
And if you want to ask Sunny your question?
What was your favorite subject in school growing up?
So my favorite subject in school was math, sort of like Margaret. I don't know why, it was just a lot of fun. I loved actually solving problems and actually seeing that there's a solution to the end of it, and you can go back and double check. So I liked math, and also because my math book was really heavy and I didn't want to carry it back home, and then back again. I used to do all my math homework at lunchtime.
I also really loved math when I was in school, but my other favorite was history. So when I went to college, I had to sort of decide which way was I going to go, and I ended up studying history for college and graduate school. I think that's probably my favorite.
Evan, a 7th grader joining us today from California, wants to know how reading could help him to become an astronaut one day. Sunny, any words of wisdom?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's so much to learn. You know, when I was your age, I thought everything had already been invented and discovered. And then I started reading more and more, and I realized that some things had, but there's so much more that we have to learn about and discover. And being able to read books and understand more new concepts and ideas allowed me to understand.
The USDA.
Alrighty, we are going to turn now to some news that is Justin, Secretary of Agriculture. They're at the podium. Brookland, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary, and HHS Secretary, the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., all holding a press conference here at the Department of Agriculture. Let's listen in here.
In the states with innovation and everything that this has meant, specifically today with Governor Morrissey from West Virginia over my left shoulder, and Governor Kim Reynolds from Iowa over my right shoulder. But there are many other governors out across the country that have just been such pioneers and such innovators. So you'll hear a little bit more about that today. We each have a couple of minutes of remarks just to give you a sense of how the press conference will go. Once the remarks are finished, we'll all move over to my desk, where I will sign each of the 6 states' waivers that we are announcing today. We'll then come back to the podium to take your questions. Hopefully we can get to everybody's questions, but if we can't, forgive us. We do have a tight timeline we're going to stick to, because if you haven't noticed, there is a farmer's market going on across the street. But Bobby and I, Secretary Kennedy and I, and honestly all of us, will be moving across the street to begin programming over there on our Make America Healthy Again Farmers Market Day. So that's what the next hour or so will look like. But again, we're just so grateful you're all here. What a great day for our great American families and for the people of the 6 states that we are talking about and signing waivers for today. We are here at the start of the National Farmers Market Week, and as I mentioned, right outside on the National Mall is a terrific showcase of what American agriculture has to offer. The Great American Farmers Market reminds us that agriculture is at the heart of the solution to the problems that we face in our health in America today, and that's why President Trump, with his leadership, alongside Secretary Kennedy and I, are working so closely to make America healthy again, alongside, again, so many of our partners across the country. We also have the amazing Dr. Marty McCary here as well with the FDA. But first, it is important to mention that before that wonderful, wholesome food gets to our plates, our great farmers, from seed to harvest, work tirelessly for all of us. President Trump has already unleashed the American economy and boosted markets for our farmers and ranchers. As we know, the One Big Beautiful Bill made the largest tax cut in American history permanent, slashed the crippling death tax. Specifically, 2 million small family farms are now shielded from the death tax thanks to that bill, and increased reference prices for our farmers working on already such thin margins. Every day we are getting new and better trade deals, including removing barriers to trade, getting our beef, for example, into Australia for the first time in 20 plus years, removing non-tariff barriers in Mexico, the EU, and other places around the world, and cementing relationships with massive markets around the world. Thanks to President Trump, we have unprecedented trade wins with South Korea, the Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, and Vietnam. Alongside that, our own team here at USDA, a little lesser known, has secured additional trade wins for agriculture in South Africa, in Egypt, in Ethiopia, in Pakistan, in Nigeria, and Namibia, and there are more, just not named today. We are lowering energy costs that affect every American at the pump and play a huge role in overall consumer costs by unleashing American energy dominance and expanding access to mining and drilling, here part of the USDA plan. And of course, all of this is not possible if our farms are under threat. Farm security policy is at the center of our national security strategy. In the Trump-Vance administration, foreign adversaries are no longer permitted to take advantage of our farmland, farmers, and programs paid for by American taxpayers. And so many of you covered that launch a couple of weeks ago, and we're really grateful for that. We are ensuring that government works better and more efficiently by cutting waste, fraud, and abuse in our programs at USDA. And as again, many of you have covered our announcement last week of moving the heart of the leadership at USDA out into the country and out of Washington, D.C. This is all about right-sizing government to improve our programs for the people that we serve. However, and the reason we're here today, we are at a point where we must do something to correct the chronic health problems that all Americans face. Over 75% of Americans' youth between the ages of 17 and 24 are ineligible for military service because of obesity, poor physical fitness, or mental health challenges. Think about that, 75%. Over 350,000 American children have been diagnosed with diabetes. As MAHA moms, and I consider myself one as the mom of 4 teenagers, as MAHA moms across the country know, behind these statistics are mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and neighbors and coworkers. President Trump and our cabinet are doing things a little differently than the typical Washington, D.C. Since my confirmation, our department has encouraged states to think differently and creatively about how to solve the many health issues facing Americans. One way is by not allowing taxpayer-funded benefits to be used to purchase unhealthy items like soda, candy, and other junk food. The number one purchase by SNAP recipients is sugary drinks. SNAP is a supplemental nutrition program meant to provide health food benefits to low-income families to supplement their grocery budget so they can afford the nutritious food essential to health and well-being. That is the stated purpose of the SNAP program. The law states it, and President Trump's USDA plans to deliver on it alongside our partners at HHS. So today, I'm proud to sign 6 more waivers for Florida, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and Colorado. This is in addition to the waivers we've already signed for Iowa, Indiana, and others across the country. I continue to encourage states to be laboratories of innovation, think through how you can promote healthy families and healthy communities. And because of our historic partnership, USDA and HHS, and the visionary leadership of the governors here with us today and of the states represented by the signings, we are doing something about it. These SNAP waivers are just one piece of the MAHA effort. We work so closely together to encourage voluntary commitments to remove artificial food dyes, among other things, from our food supply. And together we are crafting sensical dietary guidelines for Americans that prioritize whole, healthy, and nutritious foods. I am so proud to stand with Secretary Kennedy, Governor Morrisey, Governor Reynolds, FDA Commissioner Marty McCary, and so many others as we work to make America healthy again. Secretary Kennedy is the face of the MAHA movement and a relentless warrior for health policy that puts the American people first. It's such a privilege to stand with my friend and my partner and the leader of it all, Secretary Kennedy.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins. I've said again and again publicly that Secretary Rollins is the best USDA secretary in history. And the reason for that is, up until this point, every USDA secretary has focused on food quantity. This is the first USDA secretary who is focused on food quality, on nutrient-dense food, on food that is actually going to increase the health of the American people at a time when we are in a chronic disease crisis. Her changes to the SNAP program are emblematic of that commitment. SNAP, we're spending $405 million a day on SNAP, and about 10% is going to sugary drinks. And between, and if you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. And we all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. And the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying to feed kids foods, the poorest kids in our country, with foods that are going to give them diabetes. And then my agency ends up through Medicaid and Medicare paying for those injuries. So we're going to put an end to that, and we're doing it step by step, state by state. I'm also working with Secretary Rollins on the dietary guidelines, which should come out next month. They're coming out, I think it's the end of September, 3 months ahead of schedule. And the dietary guidelines that we inherited from the Biden administration were 453 pages long. They were driven by the same commercial impulses that put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid. And they were incomprehensible. And we are going to release dietary guidelines that are 4, 5, or 6 pages long, that are understandable, that are simple, and will allow people to make good choices about their food. They will drive changes in the school lunch program, and prison lunches, and military food, and they will begin to change America almost immediately. We're also working on the release of the MAHA report. We're working, Brooke especially has been adamant about the issue that we need to keep farmers as partners in the MAHA movement if we're going to have nutrient-dense food. And that is what we care about. And we've had over 130 meetings with farmers to understand their concerns, to learn from them, and to understand how we can help them to transition towards more and more nutrient-dense food. I also want to thank President Trump for the big, beautiful bill. If we're going to save the American farmers, we need to save rural America. Right now, Medicaid gives about 7% of its funds to rural hospitals. 7%. It's about $20 million a year, $20 billion a year. We are now going to add, through the Rural Transformation Bill, we're going to add another $50 billion over 5 years. So $10 billion a year that's going to be distributed to the states, to rural areas, and that is going to add about 1/3 of the money that they now receive from Medicaid, and it will transform them, and it will allow these institutions, which are so critical to the economies, to the culture, to the health of rural life, it will allow them to flourish. And the president understands the American farmer. He did more during his first term to save American farmers than any other president, and we are going to continue that tradition. So thank you very much for your leadership, Secretary Rollins.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Secretary Kennedy. It's just such an honor to continue to partner with you. One of the key partners in the effort, within the first hour of being sworn in on February 13th earlier this year, we sent a letter to every governor in America, Republican and Democrat, and said the founders' vision of the laboratories of democracy have never been more important. And what I challenge you to do is think outside the box and how we can partner with you, but want you to lead the way in solving some of these crises, especially regarding things like food stamps and chronic health disease from the agriculture perspective. And the governor that perhaps stood up very first in all of that was our great governor from Iowa. So I will always be grateful for her friendship and for her support. And I think this coming Saturday, I'm going to be even more grateful when I beat her at the Celebrity Steer Show at the Iowa State Fair, when hopefully a buckle is involved. But Governor Reynolds, what a great time to have you here.
Well, a buckle is involved, and we can't wait to have you to the Iowa State Fair. But I take that challenge, and we'll see who comes out on top. But we can't wait to have you back in Iowa, so thank you very much for that. And thank you, Brooke, for that kind introduction. I appreciate it very much, and appreciate both you and Secretary Kennedy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and really for enabling Iowa to help lead the nation in SNAP reform. You know, we have spent the last several years realigning our state government with common sense goals and priorities, and we've taken the same approach with SNAP and nutrition in our state. While the USDA, as you heard, clearly states that the purpose of SNAP is to support the health and well-being of low-income families, the reality is often the opposite. As you heard, 20% of all SNAP dollars are spent on sweet drinks, desserts, salty snacks, and sugar, with sweetened beverages the second highest purchase. And this truly isn't helping low-income families. In fact, it's hurting them. And Iowans are seeing the impact of that. 37% of our adults and 17% of our youth ages 6 through 17 are suffering from obesity. And that's something that as the governor of this great state, I can't accept. And it's why that we've really begun to strategically reform our efforts to help address food insecurity and nutrition. Iowa was one of 12 states that opted not to participate in the Biden administration's Sunbucks program over the summer to help feed our school-age children. Instead, we submitted a waiver to address our unique needs in Iowa and to have a health and nutrition focus. And I was sorry to say that that waiver was denied. And when you contrast that to the Trump administration and Secretary Rollins' approach of innovative solutions, we again resubmitted that waiver to USDA, and I'm proud to say that in June, we launched Healthy Kids Iowa. So we leveraged, I'll tell you just a little bit about that real quick and then talk about our SNAP waiver as well. We're leveraging existing food banks to purchase and distribute monthly food boxes to our meal site partners, over 264 pantry sites where they're in all 99 of Iowa counties. We utilize schools and churches and nonprofits to provide our eligible families with healthy and kid-friendly nutritious food. The monthly boxes contain $40 of nutritious food per child for those that qualify, and in the first month alone, we served over 35 children, and the program will run from June to August. Food banks, some of the food banks that weighed in and our partners in this effort said that they can actually buy up to 6 times more food than a person using that Sunbucks program at retail prices. And it really was that experience that positioned Iowa to be the first state in the country to submit a waiver to pilot a Healthy SNAP initiative. So starting January 1, SNAP dollars in Iowa can only be used to purchase non-taxable food items, eliminating soft drinks, candy, and other taxable foods and beverages as eligible SNAP purchases. And by using Iowa's sales tax exemption, it was an approach that our retail partners have really praised as simple and a practical way to ensure that SNAP purchases are healthier. More importantly, I think these changes really empower families to take charge of their health and to achieve SNAP's foundational goals of meeting their traditional needs. So once again, I just want to say thank you to Secretary Rollins and her team for making these initiatives possible. They've been incredible partners throughout the process. And Secretary Kennedy, we're looking at what we can do this next legislative session to adopt some of the MAHA policies as well. So I really appreciate the flexibility and the innovative approach that they've encouraged and allowed us to take. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kim Reynolds. Look forward to it. And Bobby said, wait, what are you doing Saturday? I said, it's a steer show. We're going to be showing 1,200-pound animals at the Iowa State Fair. So just to clarify, stay tuned. Next, Governor Patrick Morrisey of West Virginia, no greater warrior. Really, I think Secretary Kennedy, it was one of his first visits, was to visit you to talk about this in West Virginia. As the former Attorney General of West Virginia, watching you fight for the people of your state has been very inspiring. Congratulations today. You're one of the states that we're signing, and we're just so grateful for your leadership.
Thank
Governor
you so
Morrisey.
much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, thank you very much, Secretary Rollins, and it's wonderful to be here today. What a beautiful building to be at the Department of Agriculture. It's an incredible place, and I think everyone up here on the stage, Secretary Kennedy, Governor Reynolds, she's been a real leader among the governors for a long time. Commissioner McCary, they're doing a lot of great work. and work that's long overdue. I know that the collective group here, their leadership and their commitment to making America healthy again, I think it's already making a huge difference in our country. And I'd also like to make sure we thank the person responsible for it all. President Trump has picked really good people within his cabinet and these agency heads, and he's giving them the ability to enact fundamental change that really help make America reach her potential. It's inspiring, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Now, there's no way around it when it comes to West Virginia. Unfortunately, we're ranked at or near the bottom of a lot of the tough public health metrics. We lead the country, or near leading in the country, in obesity, in diabetes, in a lot of the chronic conditions that have really been disabling our people. Usually at the top of the list for more people who are disabled in our state than virtually any other. Our kids, they're diagnosed with ADHD at rates that are well above the national average. Movement in all these categories. You see, I want all West Virginians to have happy, long, healthy, and purposeful lives, spending time with friends and family and doing things that matter. Earlier this year, alongside Secretary Kennedy in Martinsburg, I signed legislation making West Virginia the first state in the country to restrict the number of the artificial dyes in the schools. We need to clean up and get the crap out of the food. And in West Virginia, we're taking the lead. That law has gone into effect. It's already started right now. And beginning this year, kids to be involved in, it's spreading all across West Virginia. And there's a mountain or mile in every one of our state parks. And I can volunteer. I have followed through to do the mountain mural every single day since I met with you. I'm going to do a lot more of that. Making sure that we're healthy, exercising is a core pillar. But there's more that we need to do, and that's part of why we're here today. We know that the changes to the SNAP program, they're long overdue. And that's why I'm so happy to work with all of our federal partners to make sure that tax dollars is going toward nutritious foods. I'm always fond of saying that the SNAP, the N for SNAP, it stands for nutrition. But unfortunately, over a long period of time, that wasn't always the case. So I'm happy now that in West Virginia, taxpayers are not going to be subsidizing soda and these sugary drinks. Things that have no nutritional value and are directly linked to obesity, diabetes, and a lot of other terrible healthcare outcomes. If a law says that a program is meant to help people get a more nutritious diet, then that's going to be the standard. That's what we're going to work on. So I'm happy to be here today and to celebrate the growth of the MAHA movement and all the amazing things that Secretary Rollins, Secretary Kennedy, and the entire Trump administration is doing. They're aligning words with actions, and we're not stopping here. In the future, we're not only going to be focusing on our food, I'm looking forward to working with Secretary Rollins on the work requirements. We have that for Medicaid and for SNAP. And I want to make sure that West Virginia is out in front on that. A state with one of the lowest workforce participation rate in the nation. I want to get more people to work, and I'm really excited to partner to make that happen. This administration is making big things happen, and I'm eager to talk about it. So thank you for everyone, and God bless our great country and the wonderful state of West Virginia.
Well done. Thank you. And now it's an honor, one of the country's greatest doctors, researchers, scientists, and now the leader of the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Marty Makary.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Secretary Rawlings. And it's so great to be here. This is a historic day in the United States. This begins the end of the government subsidization of our obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance epidemic. And it got pretty bad. Look at where we are today. 40% of our nation's kids now have a diagnosed chronic disease. 31% have diabetes, prediabetes, or insulin resistance. We can't keep just talking about the price of insulin. We also have to talk about what we are feeding children. We need to we need amazing treatments, and this FDA is committed to delivering cures and meaningful treatments. But we have to talk about nutrients and fiber, not just Ozempic and other medications to medicate our nation. We're medicating our nation's kids at scale. And so this is a historic day in the United States. And Secretary Kennedy, you've been talking about this, gosh, for a long time. You got me motivated, and it's just amazing to work in your leadership here. I hear people all the time from all different political persuasions say, you know, I'm not a Republican or Democrat or political, but I love the food stuff that they're doing. And Secretary Rollins, you have been the perfect partner, and watching you and the Secretary work together has been magical. And it's just amazing. Here we are, for the first time ever, not just talking about how to fund our broken healthcare system, but how to fix our broken healthcare system by finally getting at the root issue, and that is the health of the population, starting with children. And so people say to me, I love some of this MAHA stuff. And what else are you doing to make America healthy again? Well, as Governor Morrisey just said, we're just getting started. We're now talking about ultra-processed foods. And Deputy Secretary Diamantis, who's here, has put out an RFI now, request for information, where we're going to have a consensus definition of ultra-processed foods so we can help educate people in a meaningful way instead of misleading them with the broken food pyramid misinformation. We're rewriting those dietary guidelines with USDA and HHS. We're doing an inventory of all the chemicals in our food supply that are banned outside of the United States and asking, what are the most concerning chemicals here? We are cleaning up infant formula. We took action to remove the 9 petroleum-based food dyes. We are reevaluating and addressing the broken GRAS standard. We are talking about medical devices now and how we can prioritize medical devices that empower people with good information about their own glycemic load. You know, most of the chronic diseases we see in medicine are really related to a couple basic principles: insulin resistance and general body inflammation. And what drives that? Sugar and junk food. We're not talking about complex carbohydrates and things that come out of the ground. We're talking about ultra-processed foods that drive up the glycemic index. We're addressing the poisons in the U.S. food supply. And today, with this amazing moment, for the first time in American history, talking about taxpayer funding of our chronic disease epidemic in children, addressing the SNAP program to restore it to its mission, to talk about the N in SNAP, which is nutrition. So I'm just I'm so thankful to be a part of this historic day in America. It's been great to watch, especially with Governor Reynolds and Governor Morrisey. The great American experiment was that states would be the laboratory of innovation, and we're witnessing that right here today at this table. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well done. Well done. All right, everybody, we are going to sign the waivers right now. We'll take some pictures on each of the states, then we'll come back and answer questions.
Yeah, you too. Having a little bit of fun. You're
Governor Morrisey will do West Virginia first.
Alrighty, so we have been listening in for the last few minutes or so. Secretary Brooke Rollins of the Department of Agriculture. We've also been listening in there to a number of governors from Iowa and West Virginia, as well as Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A lot of Trump administration officials there. They're now signing this waiver. She is speaking. Not sure if we can hear it. I could turn the volume up here.
Third on the list is Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis. So grateful to Florida for continuing to be such a leader in so many things, including the SNAP waivers. Number 4, Louisiana, wonderful Governor Jeff Landry.
Okay, so we'll continue listening. She's signing waivers for the SNAP benefit program that she has announced there. So we'll keep monitoring this event here. We will listen back in when she begins to take questions, just kind of recapping throughout the last little bit of who we're watching, why we're watching it. It's just officials speaking at the Department of Agriculture on this new program that the SNAP waiver program that they have just announced, and on what they're doing to make America healthier. Again, the MAHA initiative. So we're following that story there. We are also following, we were following this LAPD standoff.
All
We've
right,
lost
first
our feed
question.
to
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Let's listen back in for questions.
Food regulation and more broadly in the states, but also the SNAP waivers, has historically been a policy approach taken on mostly by Democrats and criticized by Republicans, as Andy stated. Now nearly 10 Republican states have passed MAHA legislation. Secretary, can you talk about how you have convinced Republicans?
You know, I was at the governor's conference in Colorado last week, and I met with a whole string of Democratic governors, including Governor Polis, and they all committed to filing SNAP waivers and doing other MAHA legislation as well. They don't want to call it MAHA because they think that will that's become kind of a partisan brand, and I don't care what they call it. They want to protect their children, and there's no such thing as Democratic children or Republican children. There are children, and we should all care about them. And you know, I don't care what party you're in. There's been more enthusiasm to date from Republicans. You're right. Traditionally, it was a Democratic issue, and I'm very, very hopeful that more and more Democrats will continue to be in their party, but sign up to protect their children.
Secretary Rollins, thanks so much for doing this, and Skylar Woodhouse with Bloomberg News. I just wanted to check in. So the president released last week a flurry of trade deals and the different rates in different countries. In the ag space, we're approaching harvest season.
Right.
Crop prices for soybeans, they were down a little bit. I was just wondering if you could give an update on if you're still tracking, farmer aid, sort of how the administration is looking to protect farmers as we enter that harvest season, given that we're seeing these trade deals coming.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Obviously, the first thing I think it's important to note is this president made a promise in February to realign the entire world economy around America and Americans first. As we are renegotiating trade deals around the world, historically, on average, American ag products are charged 15% on average as they move into other countries. We, in fact, charge on average 5% as their ag products moved into America. So obviously, that realigning and the idea of American, especially American farmers and ranchers, bowing to the altar of other countries' tariff regimes and tariff structures ended when President Trump announced on Liberation Day. But having said that, and to your question, which is a very good one, the importance of understanding the uncertainty of what this means for our agriculture producers, especially for our row croppers, some really great ones from Iowa, others from West Virginia, across this country, when they were already operating on such thin margins, barely making it day to day, month to month, year to year. We've lost almost 200,000 family farms in just the last 4 or 5 years. The cost of inputs went up 30% under the last administration. Those margins are very precarious. And what we have said and what the president has committed to from day one is that this opening of markets around the world is unprecedented. Ultimately, our agriculture community, our farmers and ranchers are entering into a golden age of agriculture. But in this time of readjustment, there will be some uncertainty. So as we move into harvest season, the commitment remains that, just as we've been saying for the last few months, that if in fact farmers are hurt in the short term while we work for the long-term prosperity, that the USDA will be there to step in.
Secretary
Thank you.
Rollins.
Yes, ma'am.
Marsha Brown with Politico. The MAHA report is due out later this month, and a lot of MAHA advocates I've spoken to have said that they want to see this administration ban or limit pesticides. Will the MAHA report ban or limit pesticides or make policy recommendations to do so?
I'll answer that, and then if Secretary Kennedy wants to lean in, there is no question that the use of crop protection tools remains one of the most important tools, if not the most important, for our farmers to thrive and to, as I mentioned, to remain prosperous. There is no chance that our current system of agriculture can survive without those crop protection tools, including the fertilizers that you mentioned. Having said that, and I don't want to put words in Secretary Kennedy's mouth, so I'll let him answer if he wants to add anything, that the vision of moving America and supporting our farmers and ranchers and allowing again, a golden age of agriculture, we will continue to work together. Secretary Kennedy mentioned he and his team have met with 130 different groups representing the farming and ranching industry. I have been with him on a lot of those. We visited a farm together in Texas. I have rarely seen anyone more open to understanding and learning and talking to, and I've also heard him say that we can't compromise our farmers and their ability to feed and fuel and clothe the world. So I continue to look forward to working with him. The MAHA report the second part's coming to conclusion. We'll have announcements on that soon, but I feel very confident that his and our commitment to make sure that farmers are at the table remains paramount, and that the report will reflect that. I don't know, Secretary, if you want to add. Okay.
Alrighty, we've been listening in again to Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins there, and a number of other administration officials and governors of Iowa and West Virginia there. We're going to continue monitoring this event. We do have a few events also coming up at the top of the hour. We are expected, give me 1 second. We are expected to hear from California Governor Gavin Newsom on a suit against the federal government. I believe we're also expected to hear from the California Attorney General, if my knowledge is correct. Also, at the top of the hour, we are expected to see the Texas special session on the redistricting to reopen, even though Democrats are not even anywhere near the state. They're actually in Illinois right now. So, monitoring that event, and we'll continue to do so. We are actually, while we're waiting for the top of the hour, I actually thought it was closer to the top of the hour. Why don't we just go back and listen into this event, taking questions here, and we'll wait it out, kind of see where the top of the hour is. Again, this is the event over the Make America Healthier event over in Washington at the Department of Agriculture. Take a look here.
Is this the reorg?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, we were held up by a court order on the reorg, but we're going through with the reorg. So whether it was in well, I'm not sure what the funding is from the Senate bill, but we're going through with the reorg.
Do you plan to get some of the MAHA priorities in that administration passed, or are you working on that?
I mean, we have full support from the president. He wants this done. He promised to make America healthy again, and he's going to do that. He called me last night. He calls me 3 or 4 times a week and says, "Where are you? Why are people healthier yet?" And so he's keeping me under pressure.
There's time for one more question.
Secretary Kennedy, Ray Rubin with the Washington Post. The Wall Street Journal reported that you're planning to dismiss all 16 members of the U.S. Preventive Task Force. Is that the case, and if so, what is your reasoning?
We have not made a decision. We're reviewing that now. The task force has done very little over the past 5 years. And we want to make sure that it is performing, that it is approving interventions that are actually going to prevent the health decline of the American public. And it hasn't, let me put it this way, it hasn't been stellar at doing that job. We're looking at the personnel, and we're making a decision now, but no decision's been made.
Okay, thanks, press.
Thank you all. We're headed to the farmer's market, so y'all go buy some beef and dairy.
Okay. They're heading to the farmer's market now, as you heard there, Brooke Rollins announcing that's where they will be going to the Great American, let me get the right name. I believe it is the Great American Farmers Market. It is happening now on the National Mall. This is where they have said they're going now. You might see a live look there of them soon. We will see in watch here. If we do, still getting a live camera view into the Department of Agriculture. Probably gonna lose it here in just a second. Okay. Just listening in there to Trump admin officials holding a press conference, taking questions and signing waivers from a number of states for the SNAP benefits waiver. Quick break. When we come back, more coverage. But before we leave you, never doubting a live look at the White House here. It's such a beautiful view. You see people lined up there across the North Lawn. Well, actually, in front of the gate of the North Lawn there. So we'll continue to watch this live camera on the White House. As the day goes on, no really scheduled public events from the White House. The only thing we had was a lunch with the vice president. We do know that there are going to be a swearing in of Janine Pirro. She was recently confirmed by the Senate to serve as the kind of full-time district attorney for the District of Columbia. She was just an interim attorney at the time, but now she will be serving kind of full-time here now. We're also expected to see maybe something on an announcement from the White House soon as well. Maybe some more trade announcements. Let me check. Sorry, I'm checking Troop's social post before we go to break. I will say, on the other side of this, I'm actually want to play a press conference, or not really a press conference, but rather kind of a press gaggle that occurred yesterday when Donald Trump was making his way from Bedminster, New Jersey to D.C. again for the week. That's actually what we're going to listen to when we come back. Okay, coverage continues here in just a moment. You're watching Brookland News Live. Hi everybody, welcome back into Brooklyn News Live. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It's Monday at 2:48 p.m. We got a few events coming up at the top of the hour. We are monitoring those. We have Governor Gavin Newsom speaking on this lawsuit from the federal government against the federal government from the state of California. We'll listen into that when it comes. But first, a little bit of something to watch here. From earlier, President Donald Trump spoke to the press. This is going to be yesterday on the tarmac. I believe this is in New Jersey before he headed back to DC. Let's listen in. This was the last time we saw the president.
Okay, thank you very much. We had a very good weekend in many respects. We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms of the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous, what she announced, but that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So it's a scam, in my opinion. My opinion is it's just additional scam.
On Russia, Mr. President, can you say, have those nuclear submarines been deployed yet to face Russia?
I've already put out a statement, and the answer is they are in the region, yeah, where they have to be.
Is what Witkoff's message will be to the Russians? Is there anything they can do to avoid sanctions at this point?
Yeah, get a deal where people stop getting killed. They had a number that just came out that a tremendous number of Russian soldiers are being killed. And likewise, Ukraine, a lower number, but still thousands and thousands of people. And now we're adding towns where they're being hit by missiles. So it's a lot of people being killed in that ridiculous war. And, you know, we stopped a lot of countries from war, India and Pakistan. We stopped a lot of countries. And we're going to get that one stopped, too. Somehow we're going to get that one stopped. That's a really horrible war. You heard about Cambodia and Thailand. We got that one done. We got the Congo, which was going on for 31 years. Rwanda, that one's done. We stopped a lot of wars. This is the one we seem to be, this should be the easiest to stop, and it's not. I mean, Rwanda and Congo were going on 31 years, and I got it stopped. 8 million people dead, at least. That's what they have, but I think the number's much higher. And the leaders of each country, Rwanda and the Congo, they were great. They were great, and they wanted it stopped. 31 years it went on. We stopped a lot of wars. Serbia, Kosovo was going to be happening, and I don't believe it will now, so we stopped that one too. Yes.
You said you had more of an update to give us on Gaza, on the Gaza trip. Can you give us anything now?
We want the people fed. And we're the only country that's really doing that. We're putting up money to get the people fed. And Steve Witkoff is doing a great job. And we want Israel to get them fed. We're giving some pretty big contributions, basically to purchase food so the people can be fed. We don't want people going hungry, and we don't want people to starve. And there's some bad things happening.
Do they see evidence of a genocide in Gaza?
I don't think it's that. Look, they're in a war. Some horrible things happened on October 7th, as you know. It was a horrible, horrible thing. One of the worst I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad things in some president in terms of wars and potential wars. I mean, if you look at the one that we just stopped, they had thousands of people being dead already at the border between Thailand and Cambodia. Thousands of people. And I mean, I've seen some bad things, but that October 7th, with Hamas was really, really bad.
Mr. President, can you give us an update on Steve Witkoff in Russia and what happens on Friday if the deadline comes and Russia has not agreed to a ceasefire?
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions. So we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. They've asked that he meet, so we'll see what happens.
Mr. President, what advice do you have for Republicans on Capitol Hill heading into midterms? What do they need to do? What can they do to, you know, hold
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. You know, we've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%, I mean 14, 1,500%. Because we're going favored nations. We want the same price as Europe gets. We want the same price as other country gets. And over the years, 25, 30 years ago, it started where they were charging us much more. And I put an end to it, you know, with a letter that you saw last week. So I think that's going to be a point. I don't know how anybody could win an election if they're on the other side of that issue. So we'll be dropping drug prices. It'll start over the next 2 to 3 months by 1,200, 1,300, and even 1,400% and 500%, but not just 50% or 25%, which normally would be a lot, because the rest of the world pays much less for the identical drug, and we're going to be paying the same thing. We're going to have a favored nations. We will pay as low as the lowest nation in the world.
And then, Mr. President, I think it just came out $29 billion in July taken in tariff revenue. You know, could we see a potential rebate here, and what would that look like, and who would qualify?
Well, we're going to pay down debt. We have a lot of money coming in, much more money than the country's ever seen, by hundreds of billions of dollars. And there could be a distribution or a dividend to the people of our country. I would say for people that would be middle-income people and lower-income people, we could do a dividend. But one of the things we're going to be doing is reducing debt. But we have hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our country now. We should have done this many years ago. And I did it in my first term with China. We didn't get to the rest because COVID hit. And you couldn't really go to France and Spain and Italy and say, let's start talking about some tariffs. But China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we did it then. Then Biden screwed it all up. He screwed everything he touched, he screwed up. So, thank you.
Mr. President, will you endorse Winsome Earl Sears in the Virginia governor's race?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would. I think probably she's got a tough race. She shouldn't have, but because the candidate she's running against is not very good. But I think she's got a tough race. But I would, yeah.
When will you swear in Jeanine Pirro to be the
I
U.S.
will
Attorney for
happily
D.C.?
swear in Jeanine Pirro, who's going to be fantastic at what she does in D.C. Over the next very short period of time. I think she's going to be fantastic. Don't forget, Jeanine Pirro was a great judge and a great prosecutor. And because she was so good, I was there. She was an amazing prosecutor and judge. And because she was so good, they drafted her into show business. And she did fantastic. You know, The Five was the #1 show, et cetera, et cetera. Jeanine Pirro was also really good at that. But her real love is exactly what she's doing. And that's what made her such a success in show business. So Jeanine Pirro is going to be amazing. And I'll swear her in as soon as we can swear her in. We need her. She's going to be amazing.
Mr. President, are you happy with how the Rose Garden turned out? And will you have some kind of event? The Rose Garden, are you happy with how it turned out?
Great reviews on the Rose Garden, and we had to do it. As an example, when we had a press conference, you'd sink into the mud. You know, it was grass, and it was very wet, always wet, damp, but wet. And if it rained, it would take 3, 4, 5 days for it to dry out. And we couldn't use it for really the intended purpose. So whether they had events or they had news conferences, we couldn't use it. And it's a beautiful white stone, and it's a stone that's the same color as the White House itself. And because it's very white, it's going to reflect the heat. It's not going to be very hot, like if you had a dark stone. So, yeah, we've gotten great reviews on the Rose Garden.
You have
Any update on the search for the Federal Reserve Board? Have you been interviewing candidates?
No, I have a couple of people in mind. I'll be announcing somebody for the filling of the person that left. A woman left, as you know, who is I guess a Biden appointment, either Biden or Obama, but I think a Biden appointment. And she left early, and I think she left because she agreed with me on interest rates, and yet they were on the other side of the ballpark, right? So I'll be announcing that probably over the next couple of days.
Mr. President, Mr. President, one more on tariffs here. As you continue to, pile up these trade deals, are you kind of gaining more leverage over countries that haven't come out, made a deal with you?
I'm not looking for leverage. I'm looking for fairness. We want reciprocal as much as possible. Sometimes reciprocal would be too much for them to handle because it would be a much bigger number. But we want to see some reciprocity. We want to see reciprocal wherever we can. And all I can say is this: our country will be taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. You just said it. Already we're taking in, billions and billions of dollars. And it was very unfair. The world treated us very unfair. But the next big move is going to be the price of drugs. Because you could buy something in London or in Germany, someplace in Germany or many countries where it's 1/10, 1/3, 1/4, but sometimes 1/10 the price of what it costs to buy it in New York or some other place. And we're not doing that anymore. We're not allowing that anymore. That started many years ago when people were asleep at the wheel in this country, and they allowed that to happen, and I'm stopping it.
On the UN ambassador, will that still be a cabinet level position, sir, or not?
I don't know. I haven't determined that yet. That's a good question. I'll make a decision. He's a very good guy, but I'll make a decision.
Mr. President, what is your relationship with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence does she have in the White House?
She's very nice. I mean, I know she's known as a radical right, but I think Laura Loomer is a very nice person. I've known her for a long time. And, personally, I think she's a patriot. And she gets excited because of the fact that she's a patriot. And she doesn't like things going on that she thinks are bad for the country. I like her.
Mr. President, actress Sydney Sweeney, it came out this weekend that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
And who was?
Sydney Sweeney. She's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Alrighty, President Donald Trump there. We are going to monitor that. A number of different stories we are watching right now. That is a live look on your screen at a press conference set to happen here by Senator Mays Middleton. That is coming here soon. We also, let me get you guys a live feed into the Texas House of Representatives. If you guys will hold with me, I'm trying to get you guys into the House. A feed there. We've just gotten it. One quick second. Okay. Speaker of the Texas House, Dustin Burrows, is speaking now. Sorry, we're transitioning quickly because this story is happening. Okay, there we go. That was really interesting. My apologies. Okay, Transitioning quickly to this other story that we're following right now because House of Representatives Speaker in Texas, Dustin Burrows, is speaking right now. This comes as Democrats are fleeing, essentially, and are in Illinois right now. This is because they are trying to avoid a quorum call, for the House to vote on this redistricting that Texas is trying to do. Democrats indicating that this is gerrymandering, so we've got to watch this. So you see people standing up there. 1 second, let's just listen in here. Possibly the prayer going on. Let's go live and listen in here. Again, the Texas legislature convening as Democrats are fleeing to avoid this Texas redistricting vote.
Lord, and know that you will always make our path straight. Lord, help us to surrender our lives to your service. You created each legislative member here with unique gifts and abilities. Help them to use their position and talents to honor and glorify you. Lord, help us to see each challenge as an opportunity and to recognize that our true struggle and enemy is against the spiritual forces of evil in this world. Strengthen these men and women with your power to overcome evil with good. Lord, bless this day and the work of their hands. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Chair recognizes the Honorable Will Metcalf to lead us in the pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members and guests in the gallery, please join as we honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now to the greatest state in our land. Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Members, the chair recognizes Mr. Guerin for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I move a call on the House until consideration of HB 4 on third reading is completed.
Mr. Guerin moves a call in the House until consideration of HB 4 on third reading is completed. The motion has been seconded in writing by more than 15 members. The seconds will be entered into the journal. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed say nay. Members, actually, this is a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Mr. Guerin voting aye. Show the Speaker voting aye. There being 86 ayes and 6 nays, the call is order. Doorkeeper will lock the doors. The chair recognizes Mr. Guerin for another motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Mr. Speaker, I move that the Sergeant at Arms or officers appointed by her send for all absentees whose attendance is not excused for the purpose of securing and maintaining their attendance under warrant of arrest if necessary, and this order to be continued beyond the adjournment of day's session and until the further order of the House.
Members, you've heard the motion. This is a record vote. Clerk, ring the bell. Mr. Guerin voting aye. Being 85 ayes and 6 nays, the motion prevails. The Sergeant at Arms and any officers appointed by her are directed to send for all absentees whose attendance is not excused for the purposes of securing and maintaining their attendance under warrant of arrest if necessary until further order of the House. Members, under the rules, while the House is under a call, any member who wishes to leave the hall must have written permission of the Speaker. The chair is providing written permission to be entered in the journal for each member registered as present on today's roll call to leave the chamber and return tomorrow at 1 p.m. Please return at the appointed time. Mr. Guerin moves that the House stand adjourned until 1 p.m. Tuesday. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and the House stands adjourned.
Alrighty, you were just watching there the Texas House convening, even though no Democrats are present at this time, all due to this Democrats fleeing, going to Illinois under Governor Pritzker to avoid quorum for the redistricting vote. That's the news there. It's been quite some time here, to say the least. For this House, the drama on this redistricting is so it's a lot. It's a lot to follow as well. So we are also waiting for a press conference that is actually happening right now by Senator Mays Middleton. And this, of course, this is the Texas Senate. Why don't we go live there? We'll listen into what they're saying, and bring you guys updates.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Elizabeth Castle. I'm Director of Government Relations for Texas Values. Today we heard Senate Bill 7, the Texas Women's Privacy Act, and I am excited to see that the Texas legislature is moving quickly to pass important legislation to protect Texas women and girls. In the regular session, Texas proved that we know what a woman is. Now we will prove that you don't mess with Texas women in their privacy and dignity. Women's privacy and dignity is a non-negotiable. It is common sense to provide a safe, separate space for both men and women in locker rooms, showers, restrooms, prisons, and domestic violence shelters. The coalition of support for the Texas Women's Privacy Act is ever growing. Groups that support it include Texas Values, Texas Pastors Council, American Principles Project, Patriot.
We'll monitor this event there. We want to go to another one that we're monitoring right now. This is over in California. California Governor Gavin Newsom is to speak on a suit against the federal government. We're monitoring it. We will be on the air until 3:30 or so. That's what time we're going to attempt. Might be 3:25, 3:20 when we get off the air. Just depends what's kind of happening here. We're waiting for this event there. As we do so, we are going to sneak in a quick break, a live look here in Jonesboro on the interstate there. This is near the 49 exit. Okay, quick break. When we come back, more news. And welcome back into Brooklyn News Live. We are continuing to follow this news here. We're waiting for California Governor Gavin Newsom to speak at this event there in California on their suit against the federal government. We are monitoring that and kind of just waiting to see where things go here. Moments ago, Democrats breaking the quorum over in the Texas House of Representatives. We were monitoring that a few moments earlier. I believe we are now seeing 1 second here, because I might think we are seeing a press conference from the House Speaker on this event. If you will stand by, we will bring you into that feed. One moment. Okay, let's go live out there right now. This is a press conference that's occurring right now with the Texas House Speaker there. We'll listen in here for just a moment.
While our work may be delayed, whether it's tomorrow or next week, the House will complete its required duties. With that, I'm happy to take a few questions.
Mr. Speaker, so you issued arrest warrants. What comes next, both on that end for members out of state and any that remain in the state going forward?
I have signed the civil arrest warrants. We will work with DPS to locate members. I saw, for instance, there is one member who said that they're doing a fundraiser here in Austin tomorrow. And I've sent that fundraising letter to DPS and said they should be invited to attend as well. We'll see how that goes forward.
Are there ongoing conversations with either the Democratic caucus or individual Democrats to convince them to come back?
Look, I am very hopeful and optimistic they will come. I know that they believe in a lot of the work that we're doing. And we will continue to have open lines of communication. If you're asking for specifics, even before I was Speaker, I've always thought one of the privileges of being a member is we don't talk about specific conversations. But I certainly welcome all of our colleagues back to help us come back here, take care of the issues on the call, and address them in the way all Texans expect.
Do you agree with the governor then, given what you just said, that some of these fleeing members have forfeited the right to have elected office by being absent?
So you have asked me a legal question, and as a lawyer, I try not to give legal answers without actually studying and knowing all of the facts in the law. What I can tell you is this. I appreciate the governor offering his full cooperation and assistance in that of the DPS to help us do what we can do to establish quorum and basically fulfill our constitutional obligation of showing up and addressing the issues on the call.
Okay, I know we're just dipping in here to a number of events, but the event we were just watching a few moments ago that is happening right now. This is Texas, I'm sorry, wrong state. California Attorney General and Governor Newsom, the governor of California, speaking now. Let's listen in.
A restraining order or a preliminary injunction. 17 of those times we've gotten it. Today we have 13 court orders blocking President Trump's illegal actions. On top of that, there have been other instances where the administration has conceded.
Okay, never mind. My apologies. We're having issues with the audio, at least. Okay.
Metrics for victory as well.
All right. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to fix the audio here. Let me turn it.
Days after we filed a lawsuit, the Department of
let's listen back
Education
in.
restored funding it had illegally frozen and that we had made a subject of our lawsuit. We've also brought more than 40 amicus briefs, filed more than 40 amicus briefs in support of other related cases that are aligned with our mission and our work. In just the first 6 months, California DOJ's actions have restored, protected, and defended over $168 billion in federal funding that our state, that our communities, that our families rely on. So $5 million of special session money to fund the work to support attorneys and paralegals in my office, $168 billion protected. That means that for every $1 we've been given by the legislature and the governor from special session funding to do this work, and we are very grateful for that funding, we've returned $33,600 for the state. $1 for $33,600 in return. And just to put it in perspective, if you told a Wall Street investor they'd get a $33,000 return on every $1 invested, they would trip over themselves to get in on that deal.
Just a moment, what we're going to do, we are going to switch feeds. So we will stop listening to this one for just a moment, and we are going to change to another feed that has better quality. Okay, here's that better feed. Let's go live.
Dollars from the onslaught of successive attacks, some of which were repeated attempts to claw back the same funding sources we'd already protected from in our first effort in week one. So we protected it once in week one, they came after it again, we defended it, that funding again. Through those lawsuits, we saved approximately $7 billion in grants to upkeep the roads, railways, and airways and bridges that connect our communities, that ensure our people can safely get to work, get to school, and return home at the end of the day. We saved $939 million for California schools just weeks before classes started again. Funds for before, after, and summer learning programs, teacher preparation programs, and to support students learning English. We saved $972 million in critical public health funding for the state, funding that ensures access to immunizations, that identifies, tracks, and addresses infectious diseases, and that modernizes our public health system. And we saved more than $300 million for electric vehicle infrastructure to ensure our state is ready and able to move into a future driven by electric vehicles. Those are just some of the examples of the savings that we've had, the successes that we've secured. California isn't even asking for its fair share of federal funding. After all, we are the biggest donor state in the country, paying more federal taxes than we get back in return. What we're demanding is that we get the funding that's already been legally approved and appropriated to our state. Funding that comes from our tax dollars to support our schools, healthcare, transportation, and much more.
Alrighty, so unfortunately we are out of time for today's edition of Brooklyn News Live. Have to apologize. We try to get to every event, try to cover every party in the political system. It's hard. I'll tell you, there's not enough time of the day and their events are all at the same time. So that's the struggle that we kind of have when doing things like this. You were just listening, though, to California officials on lawsuits against the federal government. We've listened into a lot of feeds today. As you take a look live there in Jonesboro, we've listened into a lot that's happened today. We will do it again likely tomorrow. We'll see you then. We'll see how it goes on Thursday or Friday, though. Those are going to be my tricky days to be on the air for you guys, because it might be a little later in the evening and or just not live at all. So this edition of Brooklyn News Live is going to conclude. It's been a pleasure to be here with you guys for the last little bit. More to come tomorrow and the following days. It is Monday. Still got Tuesday, Wednesday to go. Lots of news still to be made. You heard there earlier we were listening into President Donald Trump speak. We heard we were going to hear from a statistician announcement that could come soon, as well as a swearing in of Attorney General Jeanine Pirro for the District of Columbia. That is going to do it for me on this Monday, though. Much more to come a little later in the tomorrow, I should say. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.